Aubrey, I am stoked for today's show. Let's jump right in because we had a listener question and it helped us come up with a fantastic episode for you guys today to teach you through examples how to paraphrase words from task one questions. Because, Aubrey, we see this all the time. Students just copy words straight from the question and it really brings down the vocabulary score.
Yes, this is one of the biggest mistakes on academic task one
Yes.
when, you need to share what the topic is in your introduction, but it's so tempting to just copy chunks or the entire topic from what you're given because you know that vocabulary is correct. You
hmm
can't do that, right? You need to have paraphrases. So we're going to give you some examples. You need to start practicing this on your own so that you're able to have a really high scoring introduction.
Well, and the whole essay, right? Because you need to refer to the topic throughout the essay. You can't
Yeah.
just say like, this number rose, that number fell. Like you have to do like what numbers, you know what I mean? So these categories you see on bar charts, line charts, whatever you're looking at, these categories, you can't just repeat the same word for the category over and over. So if the category is like produce, right? You can't just say produce, produce, produce. Like you have to say like fruits and veggies, healthy vegetables, something like that. You have to paraphrase throughout your essay to show your own vocabulary. Because if you just copy vocabulary, that's not yours. The examiner can't see your vocabulary knowledge if you're copying. So your vocab score will be very low.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to share the question we got about this, but stay to the end because we are giving you specific academic task one questions, charts, and paraphrases of the topic that you can use, like Jessica said, throughout your essay and when introducing your essay to boost vocab scores and show the examiner the vocabulary that you know.
And we're also going to give you some tips throughout today's episode for vocabulary, guys. So listen to the whole thing today. We have some gems. All right. So we picked out two bar charts to talk about today. Let's read the listener question first, and then we'll dive into this first bar chart.
Yeah, this was a comment on YouTube from Lauren who said, "Hello, can you please do a video about a bar chart?" So she's preparing for academic task one, looking at some of our other videos about task one with tips. And she has clearly practiced some bar charts. So she's like, I need tips. I need tips for these bar chart essays.
All right. So we've done task one episodes before, guys, how to increase your task and cohesion and all those scores. So definitely, if you are on YouTube watching this, just search task one. You're going to see a lot of free lessons right here on YouTube and on the podcast, of course. So this first chart, guys, we are looking at a bar chart and it's about the gross domestic product right, that is already difficult, right? We'll
Yes.
talk about it, guys. So it's about the gross domestic product from IT and service industries of the UK. All right, so that is the title of the chart. Now, Aubrey, what is the question related to this?
Yeah, it says the chart shows components of GDP in the UK from 1992 to 2000. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant.
So that second part of the question, that summarize the information, guys, don't even read that part of the question because it's on every single question. You
Yeah,
don't
you're going to be really
need
familiar with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just ignore that. That's fine. If you follow our advice and tips, you are going to fulfill these instructions regardless. Okay, let's move forward. So, the first thing you have to do, guys, is paraphrase the question to introduce your essay. So, this will be the first sentence of all academic task one essays is paraphrasing the question. Again, do not copy the question word for word, all right? So, Aubrey, how can we paraphrase that question?
Yes, so you could say the chart illustrates the total value of goods and services generated by the IT and service industry in the UK from 1992 to 2000.
Okay, fantastic. So that last part in the UK from 1992 to 2000, that's fine to copy because there you can't paraphrase the numbers, right? They're just the years. You can't change those, okay? So it's the rest of the vocabulary that we're paraphrasing. Aubrey, can you tell us what is paraphrased there?
Yeah. So, first of all, you have in the topic gross domestic product. This is a tough one, like we were
Yeah.
saying, right? You'll often see it written as GDP.
Mhm.
And so, that's the first thing is have you seen it both ways? Are you very familiar with economics? Would you know how to paraphrase this? Not all of us would. So, the first thing is you
True.
need to be looking at a lot of these types of graphs and charts to get used to this type of verbiage
Yeah.
and then be familiar with a lot of these terms. So, the paraphrase I used here was total value of goods and services because that's
Nice.
GDP, right? The total
Yeah.
value of goods and services created by a country during a certain amount of time. So you can use that paraphrase here. But if you can't think of that or you're not confident that you're paraphrasing it exactly, you can use the acronym GDP
Yeah.
or write gross domestic product. It's not
Yeah.
the end of the world. It would be better than writing something when you're not confident that it means the same thing as GDP.
If you don't know what a phrase means, just copy the phrase, guys,
Yeah,
because it's impossible to paraphrase if you don't know what it means. Okay.
right.
And if you're taking guesses, it's going to be wrong. Okay. And that brings down your vocabulary score more than copying this little phrase a few times in your essay. All right. So don't take risks with vocabulary. If you don't know what something means on the chart, just copy it exactly. Okay. It's better than guessing wrong and giving the wrong information. Because if you do that in task one, also, that could bring down your task score because you're mislabeling the numbers, you're misrepresenting the information, reporting the information incorrectly. So that also affects your task score. All right. So don't take risks with vocab. Okay. So, as we get into the essay, we're going to have to describe the two groups shown on the graph, which is the IT industry and the service industry. Okay. So, we can't just keep repeating IT industry, IT industry. Okay. We have to be able to paraphrase these groups. So, Aubrey, what are a couple paraphrases for IT industry?
You could say technology sector or the technology field, tech
Nice.
fields,
Yeah.
right? These all work. You can also use pronouns, keep in mind, right? If you've already
Yeah.
named it, then you could say this field, something like that. Same with GDP, right? You
Mhm.
can often use a pronoun instead as long as your subject is clear.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. So instead of repeating like IT industry, technology sector, you don't have to keep naming the group. Like Aubrey said, you can refer back to it. And that's part of cohesion coherence is using
Right.
pronoun reference. So you could say like this industry, that field, right? Instead of repeating the actual subject. So service industry, guys, you might not even know what that means. The service industry is basically like hotels and restaurants, right? That's the service industry. So we could say that. We could paraphrase by saying hotel and restaurant businesses, service businesses, and again, pronoun reference. Those fields, those organizations, you could say.
Yes, and this highlights how important it is to organize your information because if you talk about this IT field all at once, then you can refer to it with pronouns. If you're
Yeah.
going back and forth, IT service, then it's going to be more difficult for the examiner to know what you're referring to.
That's a great point. So, using our simple strategy of organizing your essay will help your vocabulary as well. Okay, just like
Yes.
Aubrey said. So we recommend if there are two groups like this, IT and service industry, then paragraph two is going to be about the most important numbers for IT. So again, you're not just going to repeat IT, IT, IT. You could use pronoun reference because you're only talking about that one industry. And then paragraph three will be the most important numbers for the service industry. So our strategies not only help you organize your essay in the most direct, high scoring way, but it also helps your vocabulary score.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Aubrey, what is the second chart we're going to help our students vocabulary with today?
All right, so this chart is about living issues of city residents in major UK cities. We have the theme of the UK today.
I know.
So that we see all of these cities Newcastle, Belfast, Birmingham, Cardiff, and then percentages across the bottom.
Mhm,
And we have three bars: health services, education and training, and the third is air pollution.
mhm,
So the
mhm.
first thing you're going to need to think of some paraphrases for these three for health services, education and training, and air pollution.
Well, let's paraphrase the question first. So, the test question is the chart below gives some of the most reported issues among people living in UK cities in 2008. Okay. So, again, the first sentence of your task one essay, paraphrase that question. Okay. So here's the paraphrase. The graph provided exhibits the major problems for residents of urban areas in the UK in 2008. Okay. So instead of chart, I say graph. The question always says below, guys. You're never going to say below because the question is not below your essay. Okay. So you're never going to say below or paraphrase that. So chart changes to graph, gives changes to exhibits, right? And then instead of most reported issues, we say major problems. Instead of among people living in UK cities, we say for residents of urban areas in the UK. So we really paraphrased as much as we could in that question. Okay. So there's some high level vocab in there. Now, how do we paraphrase these groups? So, again, like Aubrey said, we have health services, education and training, and air pollution. So, what are some paraphrases there, Aubrey?
So for health services, you could say hospitals and clinics or healthcare facilities. So yeah,
Nice.
there are a few different ways to say this. And then what about education and training?
You could just say schools, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with
Mhm.
that. It's better to paraphrase with a simple word than it is to repeat the phrase. So instead of repeating education and training, education and training, it's
Yeah.
better to show your paraphrasing ability even with a simple word like schools, okay, than it is to repeat. Or we could say educational institutions. That's a lovely phrase. Instead of air pollution, it's hard. It's okay. Here is a little side tip here, guys. So there's we can't always paraphrase. The word air, for example. There aren't a lot of paraphrases for air. You know what I mean? And so that's another reason to use pronoun reference. So to paraphrase air pollution, we could say filthy air or unhealthy atmosphere. Okay. But again, we're going to replace those with pronoun reference as we move further in that paragraph. Okay, guys. So the takeaway today is vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. When you're preparing for IELTS and you're doing task one, if you meet a phrase and you don't know how to paraphrase it, do some research. Look at the thesaurus. Um, and hopefully you have a native speaker or a teacher you can ask because not all synonyms from a thesaurus
Can be
are
trusted.
accurate. But now is the time to build your vocabulary while you're preparing, right?
Yeah, so this is when it's so nice to be part of a supportive community. We provide, if you sign up for Three Keys IELTS, you're immediately admitted into our community. That's where you can ask questions. You have native English teachers, IELTS experts that can answer and let you know if you're not sure about a synonym or a paraphrase. So another reason, guys, to sign up for our course, go to allearsenglish.com/KEYS keys.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Perfect. What a meaty episode. I love today's episode. Guys, if you have an IELTS question, go ahead and send it to us at support@allearsenglish.com or rate and review the podcast. You can ask us a question in the review and we'll give you a shout out in a future episode.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Aubrey. Bye.
Bye.